HankakuNijigen, also known as ASCII2D, was a board in Pink Channel, a sister site related to the message board 2 channel. That one with the funny cats, you know? The big difference between the two of them is that Pink Channel focused on adult content, prohibiting the browsing of those under 21. ASCII2D was the board that dealt with discussions of materials related to games, manga, anime and alike. Here are some threads that were open in around 2002. Someone give me Ghibli lewds, please. Lewd pictures of .hack. Escaflowne lewds. Princess Tutu lewds. Number of dudes who are men but Shota Part 2. Pictures of girls dressed like Santa. Let's gather animated GIFs thread number 2. Okay, so you get the general atmosphere of the place. But on the 17th of March 2002, someone opened a different kind of thread, which was called KFC Biscuits are so good! With the body text being, I could eat a bunch of them. Now, this is clearly off topic and even the third reply just says, die. But consecutive posters quickly got into it and started talking about how tasty KFC biscuits were. The 16th post even stating they felt this would be an amazing thread. On the 27th post, the user I wish well to ASCII2D pointed out that the thread was off topic. The person replying to him said, no matter how well you wish us, I won't forgive you if you make fun of Bisuke-tan. And that was the first time the name Bisuke-tan was uttered. Bisuke for biscuit and tan being an affectionate honorific to a young girl. It was common usage on the board and even the default poster name was Anonymous Tan and a face going and as the thread went by, more and more posters started referring to the KFC biscuits as Bisuke-tan. Wow, you can really feel how old this thread is when you see people avoiding beef because of mad cow disease. Who remembers that? Hey sis, give me 6 Biscuit-tans. Even without syrup, Biscuit-tan is pretty appealing. Because of this thread, I bought Biscuit-tan for the first time. It was good. This is the thread where we cover Biscuit-tan in syrup and eat her together. There were also people posting pictures of actual biscuits and other posters were acting excited about it. On the 116th post, someone asked for a lewd picture of Bisuke-tan covered in syrup. Something like a character that was born previously, Shiitake-chan, where instead of having a shiitake on her head, she would have a biscuit. Later, someone posted a picture of Bisuke-tan changing. However, it was a drawing of Biscuit Kruger from Hunter x Hunter. Someone told them, since you're already drawing, won't you try making an official Bisuke-tan for this place? And the artist thought it was a great idea. So posters started coming up with ideas for her design. White short hair, a ribbon on her neck, a biscuit on her head. The hair ended up being white based on Colonel Sanders and someone just came in saying, I want her age to be low. Her clothing was composed of a one piece made out of paper napkins. And so, in the 147th post, the first picture of Bisuke-tan was posted. It was the birth of a new character. How wonderful. An hour after the first drawing came out, she was already getting lewder pictures and posters were very excited about it. Although some were questioning their own sanity. At this point in time, turning things into cute girls was still something uncommon online. I like this comment in specific where the poster bought Bisuke-tan for the first time and when going back home, he was feeling a sort of excitement. Just like the first time he ever bought a lewd book. And by this point, this was already considered a really good thread, and more artists started noticing it and presenting art of Bisuke-tan. Eventually, her hair also started being portrayed as blue instead of pure silver, and her ribbon black to fit the colonel outfit. But how she was portrayed really was just dependent on the artist. So amidst the excitement, people started role-playing and started writing short stories about Bisuke-tan. Let's just think about Bisuke-tan, let's not think about the people behind those posts. However, what these started solidifying and people started accepting as the consensus is that due to Bisuke-tan continuously calling the reader Oni-chan, she became a sort of little sister character. Because of how well the thread did, consecutive KFC biscuits are so good threads were created, and on the second one they could not decide on how Bisuke-tan would speak. So one poster made a statement that would accompany the character. There are as many Bisuke-tans as there are Oni-chans. And later One-chans as well, after it was revealed that many One-chans were taking part on those threads. Bisuke-tan attracted all sorts of people with all sorts of tastes, and if your Bisuke-tan is different from someone else's, that is no problem at all, because she is your Bisuke-tan. Everyone was free to do whatever they wanted with the character. But it does seem that besides the emoto setting, her wearing striped panties also became rather popular. And as time went by, she became well known enough that she also became one of the banners for the board. So on the first thread, someone posted an attempt of making Bisuke-tan ASCII art, also saying, "Please fix this." And a few posts later, the Bisuke-tan ASCII art was born, and thus people started playing with it. For example, this one where she gets her head chopped off but acts fine as if nothing ever happened. But her rising popularity also led her to leave the KFC Biscuits Are So Good threads and making appearances in places such as the Mona board in 2channel, which dealt with short stories done with ASCII art related to the character Mona. And I'm just going to be honest here, I don't really know much about the cat. It's something I'll look into in the future. She made a cameo in the thread "Won't you eat sweets with me?", where the character Pakun would invite people to eat something he took out of his pocket, and as the thread progressed, it would eventually perform different actions. She appeared on the thread called Kentucky Fried Chicken, where she's bought by Mona and later becomes an employee of the restaurant. She also appeared on the threads together with Nekoko, which features a girl using a Gikko Neko hat. She was introduced on the thread alongside the character Gikko Aisu, a character born as a mix of a character known as Gikoko and Ekoko, Eko Aisu. And Bisuke-tan and Gikko Aisu both became staples in the threads. Also, despite being born in 2002, these threads exist to this day, currently on its 87th thread. With the rising popularity of the KFC Biscuits Are So Good threads, it is not surprising there will be copies. Mr. Donut's donuts are so good! Lotteria's hamburgers are tasty, aren't they? Countryman is yummy! Saizeria's mozzarella cheese and tomato is so good! But the biggest influence Bisuke-tan had was in leading to the creation of other anthropomorphized characters. She was not the first one, but she was the one who started the Gijinka boom. So more of these characters started appearing. In May 2002, the thread "Yuki Ichigo is so good!" and the Gijinka version of Yamazaki's Yuki Ichigo was created. In August 26, 2002, someone created the "Hooray! I made Pai no Mitan" thread, which is a character with a puff pastry chocolate pie from Lotte on her head. The thing is, her ASCII art was pretty much the same as Bisuke-tan's, and when someone drew the character trying to make her look different, it was clear that it took elements from another character who was popular at the time, making her even more into a rip-off character. But later, she got a tail and became different enough and also gained popularity herself. She also had many derivative characters such as Pai Ichigo-tan, Pai Nana, Pineapple, and so on. In July 5th, 2003, another Gijinka character that ended up gaining tons of popularity was born in 2channel's Flash board, in a thread called "The White Thing That Appears in Your Throat When You Drink Calpis." The girl is called Karutang, which was an anthropomorphized version of Calpis drink. It is not clear when this girl was born, but it was after Bisuke-tan. This is Double Cheeseburger-tan, and as you can see, she has a double cheeseburger on her head. She also has an older sister called Cheeseburger-tan. And of course, there are many others that follow a similar pattern, and it is not unusual to see Biscuit-tan portrayed alongside those other characters. I genuinely feel like I'll look more into some of these characters in the future. And in the original threads itself, on the first thread there was a poster pretending to be Biscuit-tan. Their name in the thread would be Bisuke, written in katakana, but one time they put Bisuke in hiragana by mistake. People started acting like there were two Biscuit-tans, and that might have influenced the birth of Bisuke-tan on the second thread, an even smaller version of Biscuit-tan, the little sister of the little sister. KFC also sold limited edition pumpkin biscuits, which led to the birth of Pumpkin Biscuit-tan. However, due to being a limited edition product, her appearances were also limited and she became forgotten with time. So Biscuit-tan fans started appearing outside her threads. Quite literally, 2 months after the first thread appeared, posters organized an offline meetup where a bunch of people went to Shinjuku KFC. They got 50 Biscuit-tans with the receipt signed in the name of Japan's Biscuit-tan Union. Then they headed to a public square to perform what they called disgracing party. Maybe you could use a word that's worse than disgracing. And so the 50 Biscuit-tans were eaten up by her Oni-chans. Online, of course, many arts started appearing through people's blogs. Sometimes it wasn't even Biscuit-tan art. It just became a minor fad to put biscuits on top of other characters' heads. With the momentum of things, a Biscuit-tan focused event was announced. The Biscuito, a mix of biscuit and market which just ends up sounding like biscuit. It was held in July 30, 2002, and there were only 9 circles participating, but it did manage to bring a good number of visitors. And it seems people got excited for it because for some reason the second Biscuito was held only 40 days later, sharing the venue with the tangentially related event called NetCara 4, an event focused on net characters but also allowed MMORPG related materials such as Ragnarok, Phantasy Star Online, or Final Fantasy XI Online. And along these real-life events, we start seeing more than just fan art. Those who wanted to make figures, they made figures. Those who wanted to cosplay, they cosplayed. Some people made goods, some made 3D models, some people customized dolls, some people made ukagaka, some people made games. For example, the game Biscuit-tan Boom by UniQ, where Biscuit-tan gets lost trying to go back to Grandpa's house, and she goes across places like Akihabara, where she meets lots of mascots from shops like Toranoana, Gamers, and Melon Books, consecutive stages being 2-channel, comic markets, and stuff like that. Some people even started making fan animations as seen on this fan animation called Tatakae Biscuit-tan. It was on Biscuito 2 that Biscuit-tan got an image song made for her by the circle Cotton Panties, also known as DJ Sharpno, in a mini album called My Sweet Honey Biscuit. And of course, when we talk about these events, we cannot forget about the fan books. There was definitely a considerable number of them popping up. The most surprising one I found was a Bara book of Biscuit-tan. Now, this one didn't come out on any Biscuito, unsurprisingly, but there really are as many Biscuit-tans as there are Oni-chans out there. So Biscuit-tan ended up appearing on an anime, Episode 2 of Nurse Witch Komugi, released on November 2nd, 2002. The one happening on Comic-Cat. You can see her right here. Let me make it easier for you to see. Look, it says Biscuit-tan on that banner. Now, I know you're not impressed by this, but 7 months later, episode 2.5 released. On the episode where we're working for a cosplay cafe, the character Toki Sakaruna is seen cosplaying as Biscuit-tan.
俺ホットコーヒー。僕レモンティー。 ルナ、たくさん食べるお兄ちゃまが好き。
カレーライススパゲッティ追加
And maybe because of that, or due to pure convenience, Biscuit of 3 was held together with the Nurse Witch Komugi event, Mugi Mugi Panic 2. Biscuit of 4 held alongside a Site Administrator Gijinka event. And the character Bisuke-tan is hugging on this poster is Kashin-tan, the Gijinka version of the owner of the website HKDMZ Plus, Kashin Ryoku. The site gathered daily links to interesting things around the internet, but also would showcase sites of people who drew Bisuke-tan on those daily posts. The owner of the site was someone who was on the Bisuke-tan train from very early on and definitely helped to spread the Bisuke-tan boom. You might have even seen the name of the website on this video already because of this flash video that told the story of the rise of Bisuke-tan. The other one that helped popularize her online presence was called La Biscuit, talking about the birth of the character, that I think was made by the same person who also hosted the Bisuke-tan Uploader, where people would save illustrations of her character into. The last Biscuito, Biscuito 5, happened about 3 years after the first one in June 5, 2005. And it was held next to Mimiketo 12, an animal ear focused event which is still going strong, currently at its 53rd iteration. So as you can see, Bisuke-tan managed to get considerable popularity. That offline meetup that I mentioned before was just one of many. For example, one that was held at the end of 2002 on the first day of Comiket 63, organized by Japan's Bisuke-tan Union Musashino branch. Yes, there was more than one branch, and the other ones also held meetings. 26 people appeared for this off meeting, and the organizer was very nice on this one. He bought 30 pumpkin Biscuit-tans, which he had to go around to find. He made sure they were warm with a cooler box, hand warmers, and an oxygen gas cylinder, and of course the receipt was signed to Japan's Bisuke-tan Union. When he got there, he took the group to a KFC in a very nice location that's under a Ferris wheel, where they got another 30 normal Biscuit-tans, and with this big mountain of Biscuit-tans, the group started the ritual to perform the densest disgracing of Biscuit-tan by performing it on one Biscuit-tan placed on top of a pumpkin Biscuit-tan. One of the doujinshi artists described it as an act of yuri, and then they proceeded with the disgracing by covering them with their cream and syrup. Apparently, one of the participants whispered the words "wet and messy" while this was happening, and they indulged in the Biscuit-tans under the Ferris wheel. Amongst others, there was also the first year Bisuke-tan anniversary meetup, and the following is 100% the description given by the author of the report of the event on how they decorated a biscuit for the occasion. I penetrated the hole in the middle with the fresh cream tube, pumped in the white stuff, and then rubbed it all over. Then I shoved in the candle into the hole until it got all the way in. And that's how it ended up looking like. If you ignore what I just said, this is rather lovely, isn't it? You can feel their love towards the character. So I guess by now, you understand that people were excited about this character in many ways, and many people were having fun, talking and creating things with her. She ended up gathering enough attention that several magazines started featuring her, talking about her, and even one official 2-channel magazine started releasing short comics called Bisuke and Friends, which featured many other characters from the website as well. Now, this might sound a little alarm inside your head, because now you're thinking this is getting a bit into actual commercial territory. But this is rather inoffensive. It was just a few cute comic strips that only lasted until the magazine died 6 editions later. Well, Bisuke-tan never ended up having the person who made her no one claimed her to be theirs, no one had the rights to her, and that allowed people to easily use her image without worries, which I guess did help on spreading her popularity. That allowed people to easily use her image without anyone's permission. That allowed people to easily use her image. That allowed a company to easily use her image. Enter the magazine NetRunner by SoftBank Publishing. NetRunner was one of the magazines that started mentioning Bisuke-tan, and the reaction of posters on the KFC biscuits are so good threads was disgust. They start trash talking the magazine. These frustrated comments seems to explain things. It was a magazine that only took the best parts of the culture the website cultivated to show off in their magazine, and many homepages that were shown in the magazine without permission had to be closed down due to not being able to handle the traffic it would bring. Also, inviting people to the website that didn't bother learning about the way things work there, amongst other things. Now, NetRunner had a bad reputation there, but just talking about the character is rather inoffensive. But then, to celebrate the release of the first 2003 edition of the magazine, they held an event where if someone purchased the magazine in one of the 2 designated stores, they could roll a gachapon to try winning either a plastic model of a robot that was a meme in the early 2000s, or a mousepad, or a dakimakura. A Bisuke-tan mousepad or dakimakura, with an illustration of her embracing the mascot of the magazine. So they started making goods using the image of Bisuke-tan. Later, NetRunner released a series of trading cards called NetRunner, which is read as NetRun People, that could be obtained by purchasing the July 2003 edition of the magazine. They got the illustrators of the popular Bikuriman seals and made 62 cards featuring all sorts of internet characters, and each magazine came with 2 packs of 6 cards each. One of those cards was of course Bisuke-tan's. She was one of 4 rare cards of the collection. They also held another in-person event where everyone who purchased the magazine would get a card holder, and they would give out complete sets and remaining Bisuke-tan dakimakuras as well. Apparently, the rare and ultra rare cards were so rare that they decided to sell special kits that came with those 6 cards, alongside a special version of the card holder and a mousepad. They also preemptively claimed that it wasn't for profit. It was just to give people what they wanted. Apparently, printing cards that sparkle is rather expensive, according to them. So who wants more trading cards? A second set of NetRunner cards was released alongside 3 NetRunner magazines that released at the same time, each one containing a package with 6 cards. The second collection had 30 cards, and each pack having 1 guaranteed rare card. Bisuke-tan got another card, this time being Bisuke-tan a little bit grown up. Those magazines were all released in November 8, 2003. They were the December issue of NetRunner, NetRunner's open source ambition to conquer the world, and the third magazine is Weenie Girl, with a huge Bisuke-tan on the cover. It was advertised as part of the NetRun the Binibon series. Binibon is standing for books that are inside vinyl bags to impede people to read it inside the store because it contains adult material, and this limited edition book had just that. Motto Hageshiku Bokonuki Weenie Musume, featuring Bisuke-tan. Get It Out Even Harder Weenie Girl, featuring Bisuke-tan. Nuki can mean to extract something out of somewhere, and Bukkonuki can mean doing that even stronger, forcibly. Of course, the phrase can have certain implications depending on how it's used, but online it can mean forcing data out of somewhere with means you shouldn't be able to, such as extracting a 3D model from a game or downloading a video from a website. NetRunner published things that were trendy online, but it was not their main thing. They also talked about all sorts of softwares, many that could easily lead to misuse by the user, although they would write down "misuse is prohibited" on the articles. Those who watched the OS Girls video might remember the NetRunner controversy where Futaba channel servers started crashing due to the image gathering software Berry that was presented and popularized through this magazine. Now you might be asking, what's Winnie? Winnie is a peer-to-peer file sharing software, which was actually developed by one user on the download board of 2channel. Now, there's nothing wrong with sharing files, but people did use Winnie to share files illegally, and it feels kinda wild they released a magazine that's pretty much saying, we're going to teach you how to break the law. You'll be able to bukonuki all those files you want, and Bisuke-tan is going to become the face of it. Funny enough, 19 days after this special edition magazine was released, 2 men were arrested for uploading copyrighted files online through Winnie. Apparently, they were GBA games including Super Mario Advance and the movies A Beautiful Mind and Unbreakable. This incident also later led to the arrest of the developer. Now I'm going to present you with this really nice series of ASCII art from the Nekoko threads while this was all happening, where Bisuke-tan is tricked by NetRunner to pose for her magazine while members of ASCII 2D plead her not to go. When the magazine releases, she learns that for some reason, she's the one teaching the readers how to use illegal softwares, her image gets dragged into the dirt, and she ends up in prison. Now, even though this all happened, this did not stop NetRunner. They kept using her image, and boy how they did. The September 2004 edition of NetRunner came bundled with a Bisuke-tan figure, the second figure in NetRunner's Net Vignette figure collection. Vignette for vignette. There's other ones featuring other Net characters released on adjacent months as well, designed by Watanabe Akio and sculpted by Miyagawa Takeshi. The dress looks to be removable but is actually glued to the body, and I'm only saying this because a previous figure of the collection had a removable outfit. To celebrate this edition of the magazine with the figure, they did another lottery in the 7th and 8th of August 2004. Everyone who made a purchase of the magazine at the location would win one of these 4 Bisuke-tan themed prizes: plate, mug cup, luncheon mat, mousepad. It seems they gave all 4 of them as a special prize to a lucky one. In November 2004, to celebrate the 5th anniversary of NetRunner, they released an OVA called NetRunner the Movie, featuring several of the Net characters that NetRunner talked about before and were featured in their NetRunner trading cards. Of course, one of them is Bisuke-tan. She asks BB Runner, the mascot of NetRunner, to help save the Net character Road, and after being saved from a takeout box, she accompanies him in his adventure, and they get to see many other Net characters along the way. And of course, she calls him Oni-chan for the entire duration of it.
ビスケタンちゆちゃんお兄ちゃんもうすぐだよお兄ちゃんお兄ちゃんってそういう人だったのお兄ちゃん気をつけてください大丈夫お兄ちゃん
She was voiced by Shishidorumi. In April 2005, the magazine had a subscription incentive where people who signed a year subscription would get a Bisuke-tan alarm clock, up to 1,000 people, apparently costing 10,560 yen for 12 volumes. Bisuke-tan, voiced by Shishidorumi, awakens you by saying, "Oni-chan, It's morning, please wake up. And it would be so nice if I could play the original line for you instead of reading it myself. I'm genuinely very sorry you had to hear me saying that, but unfortunately I don't have the footage. The clock could also be purchased through SoftBank Publishing online store for 4,725 yen. It was a special edition where the box was a bit different and it came with a metal pin. And the last thing that I saw them using her for was on the NetRunner August edition 2005, which celebrated the 4th anniversary of the renewal of the magazine, where they brought in new figures, this time with a theme of Puni, which is wonderful. They made 9 trading figures of several net characters, and of course Biscuit-tan was one of them. They were designed by Zankuro, ooh la la, and sculpted by Azusare. 2 figures came with the August and November magazines, one came with the separate book called NetRunner Chronicle, and the other 6 were sold separately in what's called NetRunner Virtual Net Idol Collection and NetRunner Gijinka Character Collection. And Biscuit-tan came alongside the characters Karu-tan and Ko. So yeah, NetRunner made lots of use of the character. But what did people on those threads think of it? Back when they just did the Dakimakura, despite the consensus being that they hated the magazine, despising that it got its grubby hands on their Biscuit-tan and hoping it to die, people were happy that she was getting more popular, but annoyed it was NetRunner doing it. Some other posters disliked the idea of some random person who doesn't know Biscuit-tan to get the Dakimakuras, so there were people who made plans to rescue them. Or this was written by a NetRunner employee, who knows. But there were some people who did that, like the person who organized the offline meetups, trying to get a group to go save Biscuit-tan. But it really was just a, hey, let's go do this thing, then we can go to KFC later together. It was another meetup. Some were happy, but also said she was leaving the realm of 2channel. But overall, it wasn't anything too bad. As you would expect, the Weenie Girl thing was the big turning point. It felt like NetRunner was trying to make her their character, and they also dirtied her image by making her a mascot for Weenie. Plus, the illustrator of the Dakimakura and the cover of the magazine as well was someone who participated on those threads and was very active on the community outside of it. So there were people who were mad at her, but there were also people defending her because people gotta eat. The threads became chaotic and a big target for trolling. Possibly the last positive thing that happened on those threads was when one poster pointed out there was walnut bread at the same price point as Biscuit-tan, and posters started coming up with Kurumi Pang-tan, walnut bread tan, the rival of Biscuit-tan. However, she never ended up getting popular. And NetRunner also got their hands on her with her third NetRunner trading card series. This series being the one that features Mahoro-chan and Yamato-kun from Saga, and me from Futaba. The threads being a mess, and due to the Bisuke-tan Boom also passing, the number of posters steadily decreased, and this series of threads, which were staples in the board for 4 years, stopped being created. By June 2006, they were already gone from the board. This October 27 blog post wonders just where did the Bisuke-tan Boom had gone, claiming that people were already too used to Moe Gijinka and were probably drawing Hatsune Miku now. And he then wondered if in a few years people would go, oh yeah, Miku was a thing. How nostalgic. Well, that didn't happen yet. Apparently, Miku is just built different. Despite the downfall of the KFC Biscuits are so good threads, Biscuit-tan wasn't totally forgotten. 2channel held popularity contests across the years, being held in 2002, 2005, 2008 and 2011, based on the Saimoe tournament. It was their biggest event where every board of the website was able to participate. The first tournament had 421 participating boards, the third one had 802. And on those threads, people from all over the website could come in to vote as well. And it was not uncommon for those people to use ASCII art to show where they came and to represent certain boards. Despite everything that happened, Bisuke-tan kept being the mascot of ASCII 2D on those tournaments, and many people would portray their board mascots interacting with other board mascots to show their vote and support. I like this thread in ASCII 2D where other boards come to introduce themselves and Bisuke-tan just gives everyone tea. But yeah, nothing much after that, whether it was NetRunner or it was just a result of the passing time, she was slowly leaving the mind of people. Her appearance in Nekoko threads heavily decreased. The only other thread she seemed to appear is this one called Kabin, Karutan, Bisuke, and sometimes Nekoko, created with the intention of not having people forget about these characters. Still, I would bet Bisuke-tan is not really in a position where she can be forgotten anymore. I am going to guess a good number of people watching this video have known about her or have heard about her before. Maybe they thought the idea of a KFC biscuit girl to be humorous. Maybe they were genuinely enchanted by it, maybe they're just interested in a relic of a time past. Whichever it is, she made her mark in internet history, and it was all thanks to one guy who liked KFC and many others who decided to play along all the way back in 2002. This comment from the first thread says it well. They were witnessing history being made and carving it. And we here had a little bit of a history lesson, I guess you could put it that way. That is all I have to say. If you like my videos, please support me on Patreon. I will now thank all of my patrons. Thank you Dark Rose, thank you Vederepi, thank you Fro116, thank you Timepiece Master, thank you Odope, thank you Rassays, thank you Salty Taro, thank you Kylie Dragonfruit, thank you Jasad, thank you Young K, thank you For Lajif, thank you Alari, thank you Octavian Mihai, thank you A Friendly Danger, thank you MeowMix64, thank you Snades, thank you Sauce, thank you Gansan, thank you Hobby Anon, thank you Vic Boss, thank you Tsutomu Miyazaki, thank you That One Said Weeb, thank you Sat, thank you Lime Phoenix, thank you Titan, thank you Boar, thank you A, thank you Ultra Cat Flap, thank you Wisa Hell, thank you Gillice here, thank you Rocky, thank you Moon Bunny, thank you Melman, thank you Sergeant Rock, thank you Juicy-san, thank you Kawanerio and Kawanerina, thank you Honza135, and thank you Martin De. If I mispronounce your name, actually please correct me, and to make up for it, I'll tell you a secret of mine. I have never in my life eaten a Bisuke-tan before. I have no idea why they were so excited about it. I only know that she was cute, and that's why I made this.